Hi, I'm Bob with LPS Computer. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the ink tube system in a Designjet 5000 5500 series inkjet plotter. I'll be using the instructions that come in a kit that we put out, that LPS puts out. Written instructions that outline everything that I'm about to do. The instructions are also on a CD, which has the entire service manual in it. We include that. And, well, there's a tube of oil and some other stuff we include for the carriage rails, just as a little added benefit. The tube system I'm going to install has been refurbished by LPS. Generally, I would not recommend a refurbished tube system be put in. However, LPS is a technology company, and we've done some things here that I'm quite sure are unique. For instance, these are that wasn't one of them, by the way. These are the valving assemblies that accept the ink cartridges. These tend to leak, and so we repair those by taking them apart. Now, these assemblies do not come apart easily, so we've had to create our own device to take them apart. We can get them apart in 1 or 2 seconds. And the part that actually leaks is this O-ring in the middle. The original O-rings from HP are made out of Buna, which is a synthetic rubber, and all synthetic rubbers use plasticizers. Plasticizers evaporate. They're used to keep synthetic rubber, synthetic plastics, and that sort of thing soft and pliable. When they evaporate, the material shrinks, it hardens, it cracks, and it leaks. We replaced the we don't use Buna. We replaced the O-rings with silicon O-rings. They're red, not black, which is of no consequence. They're of a specific durometer. We've tested them up to ridiculous amounts of pressure. They do not leak. And so whether these are leaking or not, when they come into our shop, they are disassembled. O-rings are replaced. They go through a cleaning process first. O-rings are replaced and then they're reassembled. So each of these is brought back to at least 100% of what it is when it's new. That's about 50% of the error or the leaks and the problems that happen with the tube systems happen right here with these. The other 50% happens on the carriage end of it. And the printhead ports, which are right here, have 5 different parts. There's a seal in here. It's a dual-purpose seal. One purpose of the seal is to seal around the needle when it goes into the ink tube system, so ink can't get out. And there's also a check valve inside here, a ball and a spring. The bottom of the seal is shaped like a cone, the hole going down through the center of it. So when the ink tube or the printhead is taken out, air can't get into the lines. That seal is very problematic. We've tried many ways to straighten out the OEM to fix it. We couldn't do it, not reliably. So we designed our own assembly, and these were made for us to our specification by a shop here in San Diego. And they did a very nice job for us. So these are brand new. They're extra heavy duty. We tested them up to 100 psi. We didn't go beyond that because our test equipment doesn't go higher than that. These normally run under 10 psi. So there's virtually no possibility of these things failing from too much pressure being on the inside. If you're one of the biggest problems with these, and it's a subtle one, is not ink getting out but air getting in. When air bubbles get into the ink tubes, they'll eventually migrate and get into the printheads. The printheads eject the ink by creating heat. It's actually steam that pushes the ink out of the inkjet nozzle and toward the paper. When an air bubble gets into the printhead, you're not only missing print, there's no way for the heat to escape. The steam takes the heat away with it every time it fires. When it fires repeatedly, dry firing, it burns up the printhead. So if you're experiencing printhead failures frequently, it could very well be air in the lines, which would indicate your check valves are not working. Now, there are ways of getting the air out using a syringe or set up printheads, but that's a temporary fix. The air will get back in, and you'll eventually destroy printheads. Printheads are shipped from HP with ink in them, so when you put them in, they may work for a day or two until that air works its way in and destroys the printhead. So if you're having that kind of a problem, this is the fix. Another thing we do is to reprogram the read-only memory that's on the ink tube system. That resets the counter back to 0. The counter, when it reaches a certain point, will tell the printer, I'm worn out, replace the ink tube system. Well, unless somebody's got a way of resetting that, and we do, you don't know what you're getting when you buy a so-called refurbished ink tube system. So with ours, it starts at 0. And you can put it in a week later, it hits its limits, and you're stuck. You're going to have to do it again. No such danger using an LPS ink tube system. I think we're ready to go. So replacing the ink tube system is really pretty straightforward. It's easy to do. You don't require tools. You don't have to take the covers off. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is take the ink out of the machine. Set that aside. And after we're done with that, well, I got set a little further aside than I had planned. After we're done with that, we're going to take the print heads out. So the print heads, of course, are in the carriage. We need to open this up and pull this forward so it unlocks the carriage. Now we can just move the carriage over to this area where we can unlatch everything, and hello, there it goes. Bring it over to this area where we'll take the print heads out. Just like that. Now we're ready to unlatch the ink tube system itself using these thumb holes. Just pull it out and put this back down. And now we have to bring it back down this way so we can access this blue button on top. And we push down on it and it just slides off. And now it's disconnected from the carriage. I'll feed that up between the frame members here. You can pull that free. This blue clip just lifts out. And now we have to go to the back of the machine. I'm going to turn this around so you can see it better. Okay, open up the back. This is the other end of the ink tube system. What we're going to have to do is disconnect the air pressure tube and the ribbon cable. Now there are 3 latches here. You turn them each just a little bit, and this is ready to slide out of the machine. And the old ink tube system is clear of the machine and ready to be sent back to LPS to be redone. Okay, now we're ready to put the refurbished ink tube system back in. And there are rails here with slots, and you're going to line up this portion right here into the tracks, and you can't go wrong if you do that. Set them in there, and I guess if you pinch the ink tube or air tube, that's going wrong. Okay, slide it into position, and it will only go so far, and then it will locate. And go ahead and turn the levers here to latch it in. This is keyed; you can't get it in wrong. Put it in, and the air tube goes where the air tube goes, right there. And that's it for back here. Just leave that open for now, because we're going to come back and make sure we have no stress on the tubes when we're done. But we'll go ahead and put these in. I'm going to swing this around so you can view it from the front. Be a little easier to see what I'm doing. Okay, we'll put these. And it's just like this. That'll set the length over here for what we want to do. Put in these guides, and that's that. We'll put the tubes themselves into the channels where they need to be. Feed this through the frame. Now I'll move the carriage over to the ink tube system so that clicks in. And this is just going to locate itself. These will clip in place, and it's in. Now I need to move it back over here to put in the setup printheads. We need setup printheads because we've got to get the air out of the line. What's going to happen is these are vented to the outside, but there's a little thing that looks like a cigarette filter in there, tiny one, that's chemically treated. It will allow air to go through, but as soon as the ink hits it, it turns to goo and stops the ink from spilling out. These are one-use devices. You get a full set of 6 of these with the these are brand new OEM from HP. Full set of 6 with each ink tube system. So we'll go ahead and put these in. Of course, we're doing all of this power off. Okay, we're ready to turn the power on. Oh, that was graceful. No, we're not. We need to put the ink back in, or nothing's going to happen. Okay, now we can power on. It's going to take a minute or two to boot, so I think we'll take a break here. We'll be right back, but this is going to come up and say ink system startup, and I'll show you what to do from there. Okay, the printer went through its startup routine, and it came up into this this screen. It says ink startup, printer startup, press enter to continue. So I'm going to press enter, and it didn't like the way I put in one of the ink cartridges, so let's just redo this. Still doesn't like it. Okay, I just reseated the magenta ink cartridges a couple of times, and it liked it. And now we've gotten to this scene. Let's check Printhead, initializing printer. What? It's going ahead and priming the system. I can hear the air pressure system running, so there's really nothing we need to do at this point. Okay, very cool. Now what? In a minute here, it should ask us to replace the printheads. Lift window and replace the setup printheads. So at this point, the printer should be primed. When we open it up, we should see ink inside the setup printheads. You can see all of these have ink in them. If you look at the, I don't know if you can see it very well, but the tubes that you could see through a minute ago, now all are primed, have no air in them at all. So we replace these with the proper print heads. Close the lid, and this is going to go into a printhead alignment, so it's going to ask for paper. But at this point, you're essentially done. The tube system is in, the heads are in. You need to load paper. It'll do a printhead alignment, and you're back in business.